Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of the 1000 subscribers special video. So in the first part we took a look at how the base body of the action figure evolved from the wireframe to a jointed frame and the evolution of the jointed frame too. So in today's video we'll take a look at a few characters like Spider-Man and Black Panther and how they evolved from the wireframe to the jointed frame and the way the sculpt changed in all of these figures. So let's get started. Okay, so these are all the Spider-Man figures we'll be taking a look at in this video. So we already spoke about this guy. I mean, do we even really need to talk about this guy anymore? So let's just keep him over there. So yeah, this guy. So this guy has actually stood the test of time, and he still works. Like, he functions very well. You know, he has all the points of articulation and it just works. So that just shows that my figures really started taking shape from here. So he's got great posability still. He has the hinge in his head and rotation in his head, rotation in his hand, hinge in his shoulder, rotation in the upper arm, double hinges. I used to add double hinges in the elbows earlier. Hinge in the wrist, rotation in the wrist, ball jointed waist. The legs could not kick up much. I think that was about it till there. And just rotation. Oh, they also kicked out. The double hinges in the knee, hinge in the foot, and pivot in the foot. So that was my first figure on YouTube. And then I made another Spider-Man figure. That was this guy, the superposable figure. He's superposable but lacks in sculpt, could say. So yeah, he's a floppy mess basically. So yeah, as you can see, this figure, he has a whole lot of joints, but this is when, you know, it's sometimes better to trade articulation for sculpt. So that's what I did with those figures over there. So that's why they look much better. While they may have restricted articulation, they look much better. They are aesthetically pleasing. And you can still get a whole lot of poses out of them. I'll show you that. So let's just take a look at this at his articulation. So he has a hinge in his head. You can look up and you can't look down. Okay. He has a rotation in his head. So this is the only figure I think I made that had butterfly joints. So as you can see there, it does rock like that, the back and front. Then they did rotate that, hinged out. He had then I think the rest of the articulation is pretty similar to that figure. Double hinges in the elbow, rotation in the wrist. He had this ab crunch. It was a different design for that. I think it's called a T design or something. And then rotation in the waist. Legs could kick out sideways like that. Rotation in the leg, double hinges. He had rotation in the calf, hinge in the ankles, and the foot, rotation in the foot, and also a toe hinge. So yeah, he was packed with a whole lot of articulation, but he also looks like this. So that's a huge disadvantage of adding so many joints. Okay, coming to this figure, can you guess which Spider-Man this guy is supposed to be? No, he's supposed to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I recently made a new figure, that's this guy, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from Spider-Man 3. Yeah, this guy is supposed to be him. Look at the difference between the older figure and the newer one. I don't even want to say night and day, but you can't even compare it. So yeah, he was also floppy. He's already falling apart in my hands. So yeah, I'm not even going to run through the articulation. Like, some of the joints have all fused. I can already look at it. The legs won't even move on this figure. So this was a battle damage Spider-Man, the comic book Spider-Man. So he had again pretty similar articulation to the others. As you can see, there was a lot of sculpt on this figure, but yeah, proportion still needed to be better. He has a flat chest and stuff, and also his legs are too short for the body, and face sculpt is okay, I guess. for the time at least. So yeah, that was this figure. We already took a look at this Spider-Man. Pretty nice figure actually. I still like this figure. And this is the stealth suit Spider-Man, I believe, from No Way Home. So I made this figure before the movie actually came out, and this is also a very nice figure actually. I really like this figure again, but I don't have any place to pose this, so this figure I'll run through the articulation on this. So he has, I believe I used to use a dumbbell. Yes, this is a dumbbell joint, so it's basically a double ball joint, so he could look all the way up, down, move in any direction basically. Then his arms could rotate, hinge out. There was rotation in the upper arm, double hinges, rotation in the wrists, ball jointed upper torso, ball jointed hips. Yeah, I used to use ball joints before I moved on to the hinges. Then double hinge in the knee, hinge in the foot, and pivot in the foot. So that's, as you can see, the details on this figure. He has the golden webbing, and also painted he had some sort of circuitry pattern on the suit, so I painted that. Yeah, pretty nice figure, I like that. Then I decreased the scale of the figures, so this was my first attempt at that. So as you can see, this is supposed to be the Amazing Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. You can see, I'll run through the articulation. This guy has actually a lot of articulation, and I think I integrated it well in this figure. Okay, so taking a look at his articulation now. So he had a rotation in his head, hinge up and down. Then his arms could rotate 360. It also gave a slight rocker there. They could hinge out. There was rotation in his upper arm, double hinges in his elbows. Then he also had rotation and a hinge in his hands, but I lost those. Then there's a ball joint in his upper torso, ball jointed hips, so I had still not moved on to the hinges. So yeah, so you could get all sorts of movement through that. Rotation in the upper thigh, double hinges in the knee, hinge in the foot, and also pivot in the foot. So that was, I think this was the last figure that used double hinges. Then I moved on to single hinges. Yeah, so coming to this figure, so a more recent one. I think I made this like at the end of last year. As you can see, sculpt's much better. It's more simple, you could say, but it makes it look much better. By the way, you can go and check this video out. It's there on my channel. I'll put a link in the description below. As you can see, articulation is still there, like you can look up, down, rotate, hinge up. His hands can hinge in and out, rotate. Yeah, here's where it changes, like a single hinge in the elbow, rotation in the wrist, the ball joint in his upper torso. Then the legs. Now the leg articulation is much better on these figures, so that was a huge improvement from the ball joints and these hinges. It's the new hinge design is basically an upgraded version of these hinges, so you can check that out on my how to make an action figure with paper or whatever. I have the video on my channel. I'll link that in my description too. So they can kick out there, kick outwards, they can kick all the way, by the way. So that's another advantage of a hinge joint. So a single hinge in the knee, rotation in the knee, hinge in the foot, pivot in the foot. So yeah, and then I have this figure. So here's where details come into play and why the new body is much better over the older one. So you can see I could add all of these details, like the web lines and stuff like that, and even the mesh design on the suit and the blue portions. So this I don't think would have been possible on the double hinge body. It would have been more cumbersome to do and would have taken more time, and probably wouldn't have looked as good as this, I think. So you can check this video out too. It's just there. It's my previous upload. So yeah, nice figure. So let's take a look at Black Panther, I think. Yeah, so let's take a look at Black Panther now. Okay, so these are a few Black Panther figures I found in the box. This one's a new one, by the way. It uses the new body. I have not made a showcase video on this figure yet, but maybe in the future I will. It's a very nice figure. It's one of the best actually I have. So let's take a look at this guy, the headless Black Panther. Yeah, he's missing his head. It got lost somewhere in the box, and yeah, I'm not going to find it. I don't think so. That box is a mess. So you can see. Okay, so this is one more reason why I replaced the double hinges with a single hinge. This joints tear, so that's not a good thing, and it's pretty, and you can't basically repair this joint. The single hinge you can just replace, just pull it off the socket and put a new one in. So anyways, taking a look at the figure, yeah, not great again. It's just a mess basically. There is sculpt on it, and articulation is also there, like the double hinges and all that, but I mean, you can't really use all of that. Like, you can't, he's not a stable figure. So yep, that's the first figure. Then let's take a look at this guy, Buff Black Panther. That's what I call him, Buff Black Panther. So this figure actually looks a bit like the Toy Biz figures, like with the big, ball shaped hinges and all that. And again, this figure has all the articulation, but aesthetically not so great, Yeah, he's got that side bump going on. I don't know why. You can see his head, it's sort of stuck there. He's got all detail on his body, so as you can see. So sculpts were getting much better at this time. Then yeah, I made this figure, Black Panther. He's missing an arm, it got lost in the box again. So as you can see, yeah, things really start taking place, so start taking shape over here from this point onwards. So if you see the head, sculpt's much better, proportions are much better. Yeah, one eye is a little lower than the other. That's a problem that was there at that time, but as you can see, even the details are much more clear and better on this figure. Posability is still pretty similar, like he had rotation in the head, up and down in the head, hinge in the shoulder, rotation in the shoulder, rotation in the upper arm, double hinges, hinge and rotation in the wrist, hinge and rotation in the waist, legs could kick. Oh, okay, these joints are slightly different, so the legs are connected here. So if you want to move one leg in front, you have to catch the other one in order to do that. So that was a different joint design I was trying with these figures. So you can also hinge the legs outward. There was thigh rotation, double hinges in the knee, hinge in the foot, and also rotation in the foot. So that was that figure. And now coming to the new and the latest Black Panther figure I have. So as you can see, there's a slight paint rub over there, just ignore that. You need to paint that. Much better figure in terms of proportion and everything. So this guy really looks good when you pose him. So I'll show you the articulation. Okay, we'll take a look at the details actually first. So as you can see, all the lines are sculpted in, and there's actually like thread like pattern between the lines. This figure I sculpted with a needle. So yeah, that's how much detail is packed into this figure. So as you can see, even on the head, on the arms, the legs, on the back. So yeah, and articulation is pretty similar to the Spiderman figure from before. It uses the same base body. so he can look left and right, up and down, hinge in and out, rotate at the end, rotation at the elbow, hinge the elbow, hinge and rotation in the wrists. So this is when I started adding hinges to the wrists. The Spider-Man from before did not have that. So a ball joint in the upper torso. Again, the legs can kick in front and sideways all the way out. Single hinge in the knee, rotation in the knee, hinge and pivot in the foot. So that's it for Black Panthers.